Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our sixth session in our series on kind of issues that we all face. I know technically the main title of this series is Issues Men Face, but I feel like these are issues that men and women both face. So I'd say it's applicable to anyone. Anyway, so I want to thank you all for joining me here today. As always, if you have questions, comments, concerns, you want to answer some of the questions from today's Bible study, please feel free to do so in the comments section down below, either here on Facebook or on the YouTube page where this will be posted later. For those of you that are following along at home, today's reading is in 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 12 through 26. As a little bit of background, Eli served as Israel's high priest. In the story, we see a stark contrast between Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas, who were also priests, and Samuel, who had been dedicated as a child to the Lord's service by his parents Hannah and Elkanah. So, we're talking about Eli's wicked sons today. But before we jump into the story itself, we do have icebreaker questions, as always. So we'll do those first. Our first icebreaker question for today is, growing up, who or what crowd did your parents warn you to stay away from? Well, growing up, my parents told me to stay away from strangers, but that's kind of beside. And that's ideally a message every parent gives to their child or children or grandchildren even. Don't talk to strangers. If strangers offer you something, don't take it from them. But outside of that, there wasn't really a particular person or group that I remember my parents saying to stay away from. Granted, I grew up in a very safe community. I can't really recall any crimes happening in my hometown growing up. Sure, kids went and TP'd a neighbor's house or egged a neighbor's house, things like that, but senseless pranks like that. But while I was in school, there really weren't crimes there. It was a very safe community. There wasn't really an unsafe neighborhood, unsafe group of people to stay away from. So that wasn't so much an issue. What about you all? Was there a person or a group that your parents warned you to stay away from while you were growing up? Let me know in the comments below. Our second icebreaker question is, what is your favorite shirt or outfit, and what makes it special? Oh, geez. My favorite shirt is a long sleeve tee that my wife custom made for me. It says Dorcas Maximus on it, which is her nickname for me. It's in the colors of Beauty and the Beast, so blue, yellow, and red mostly. And it's even got an enchanted rose on it. Just being a huge Beauty and the Beast fan. Also that it's one of a kind, just like me. It's definitely a favorite shirt of mine. Outside of that, I don't necessarily have like a favorite outfit. More just a favorite shirt. But what about you all? What is your favorite shirt? What is your favorite or outfit? What makes it special? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, we will get to the reading for today. Again, we are in 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 12 through 26. Listen now for the word of our Lord. Eli's sons were wicked men. They had no regard for the Lord. Now it was the practice of the priests with the people that whenever anyone offered a sacrifice and while the meat was being boiled, the servant of the priest would come with a 3-pronged fork in his hand. He would plunge it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot, and the priest would take for himself whatever the fork brought up. This is how they treated all the Israelites who came to Shiloh. But even before the fat was burned, the servant of the priest would come and say to the man who was sacrificing, "Give the priest some meat to roast. He won't accept boiled meat from you, but only raw." If the man said to him, "Let the fat be burned up first, and then take whatever you want," the servant would then answer, "No, hand it over now. If you don't, I'll take it by force." This sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they were treating the Lord's offering with contempt. But Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod. Each year his mother made him a little robe and took it to him when she went up with her husband to offer the annual sacrifice. Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May the Lord give you children by this woman to take the place of the one she prayed for and gave to the Lord." Then they would go home. And the Lord was gracious to Hannah. She conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. Now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel and how they slept with the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meetings. So he said to them, "Why do you do such things? I hear from all the people about these wicked deeds of yours. No, my sons, it is not a good report that I hear spreading among the Lord's people. If a man sins against another man, God may mediate for him. But if a man sins against the Lord, who will intercede for him?" His sons, however, did not listen to their father's rebuke, for it was the Lord's will to put them to death. And the boy Samuel continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with men. This is the word of our Lord. Thanks be to God. Our first question for today: what were Eli's sons doing that were wrong? Taking what belonged to God for themselves, serving out of duty rather than love, disregarding God's requirements for worship, using their position for sexual exploitation, dishonoring their holy calling. Well, the last one kind of sums it all up. They served out of necessity rather than out of an actual passion for the ministry. They used their position for sexual exploitation. They used their position for taking more meat than was necessary or than was allowed. In everything they did, they dishonored their holy calling. That is the summation of what they did. It's not any one particular thing. It's more or less everything they were doing. But that's my interpretation. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Number 2, why do you think Samuel enjoyed God's favor? He was young and innocent. He had better parenting. He chose to honor the Lord. He had a special calling and relationship with the Lord. His mother prayed for him. Well, he enjoyed the Lord's favor because he definitely had a special calling. He had a special relationship with the Lord. He is not necessarily, the Immaculate Conception. He's by no means born the same way Jesus was born, but his mother was barren. Hannah prays and prays and prays. Eventually, she is blessed with a son, but she has to give him up. So, Samuel is this divine blessing almost. So there is this instant special relationship between Samuel and the Lord. It's not just a developed thing, it is from birth almost. And I would say with that established relationship from birth, granted, he still had to choose to honor the Lord, but it was much easier for him. What do you all think? Why do you think Samuel enjoyed God's favor so much? Let me know in the comments below. Question number 3. What would you call Eli's response to his sons in verses 23 through 25? This is where he is rebuking them, saying, this is not honorable what you're doing. Right on, too little too late, the best he could do, a mere scolding, something else. Potentially a little too late, but I would say it was right on. It's not within his power to execute them. It's not within his power to cast judgment on them. That's God's power alone. It's unfortunate that the word of their deeds reached him so late in the game, that this had been going on for a while, but definitely it was the best he could do. All he could do was scold them. All he could do was say, you no longer have God's favor. But I would say it's right on. He gave them a piece of his mind, which was all he could do. But that's my interpretation. What do you all think of Eli's rebuke of his sons? Let me know in the comments below. Question 4. What should Eli have done with his sons? Talk to them when they were much younger, remove them from their place of service, spend more time supervising their duties, or something else? Well, one would assume that if he was a good father, he would have talked to his sons about this ahead of time. He would have shared his faith with his sons. He would have instilled in them a similar level of faith in God, a similar reverence for God that would have paused their doing this, but at the same time, not to argue boys will be boys, but as much as parents might want to dictate how their children will turn out, it is still within the child's capabilities to kind of forge their own path. So it's possible Eli did have this talk with them. It's possible he did try to instill a certain reverence with them, but greed, power, selfishness overtook them. So definitely he should have removed them from service, but my opinion is remove them from their place of service and potentially even just told them the Lord will deal with you as he deems fit. Plain and simple. But what do you all think? What do you think Eli should have done? Let me know in the comments below. Growing up, who would you say you were more like? Samuel or Hophni and Phinehas? In elementary school, I was more like Hophni and Phinehas. I was very selfish, very egotistical, very, shall we say, tyrannical. Once I got to middle school, high school though, once I started to establish my own faith and attend church of my own free will, not because my parents dragged me there every Sunday, I started to become much more like Samuel. So I would think it would depend on when we are talking about. Initially I was Eli's sons, but eventually that evolved into being a Samuel. That's me. What about you all? Growing up, who were you more like? Let me know in the comments below. Question 6. What is one of the best things your parents did in raising you? They gave me love, they gave me discipline, they made me work, they taught me about Jesus, or something else. The first two, they gave me love, they gave me discipline. Definitely, they loved me, they cared for me beyond anything that I could repay, but they also didn't let me get away with anything and everything. I wasn't spoiled rotten. I had limitations. I could only wear certain articles of clothing, certain places, so I couldn't go to church in play clothes. I couldn't play soccer in the house or something like that. They had rules, they disciplined me, they got me to follow those rules somehow, some way. But I would say those two things. They gave me love, but it was a disciplined love. Anyway. That's my response. What about you all? What's one of the best things your parents did in raising you? Let me know in the comments below. Question 7. What do you feel is the most important thing you can do to raise a child right? Give them unconditional love, discipline wrongdoing, teach them about God, educate them, pray for them, or something else? The most important thing you can do is give them unconditional love. If a child does not know love, they're going to have a real rough adulthood. They're going to have a very rough time showing others love. And disciplining every wrongdoing, you're coming down as a tyrant, as a dictator, as this overbearing parent. That's not necessarily the best for a child's psyche, so the best thing you can do is give them unconditional love. That doesn't mean spoiling them rotten, but loving them, forgiving them as many times as it takes. You're always sticking by their side, helping them when they are down, when they need help. That's what I believe the best thing you can do for a child is, but that's me. Let me know what you all think the most important thing you can do for a child is. Let me know in the comments below. Number 8, what is the greatest challenge you face in trying to be a good role model? I don't know. Doing for myself as I would do for others, I guess. It's very easy for me to look out for the well-being of others, to think about other people's needs before my own, and I have been known to kind of get in trouble because I've been so concerned about the needs of others and trying to meet those needs that I haven't taken the best care of myself. So I guess the greatest challenge for me in being a role model would be I'd be so concerned about setting a good example for them that I might not be giving enough conscious thought to what I need. But that's me. What about you all? What's the greatest challenge you face in trying to be a good role model? Let me know in the comments below. As always, our final question is, how can this group pray for you? Please let me know if you have joys or concerns that you want shared on Sunday mornings. If you would like for me to pray for you, pray with you, please leave those prayer requests in the comment section. Send me an email, text, or a phone call. I am here for you all, first and foremost. So we will pick up next week with technically issues women face, but there are also issues that everyone faces to a certain extent, so hopefully everyone can get a meaningful experience out of it. Anyway, until next week, stay well, stay safe, and God bless.